There are five soccer questions that the United States of America will be answering in 2025. And depending on the answer, that might determine how successful the 2026 FIFA World Cup will be. Dímelo, mi gente, travel football fan here. I'm helping fans save money and travel the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So, these five questions that I have listed here are really important questions to ask because they're really going to determine how fans are going to interact with the Soccers of Summer Part 2, right? We already had one in 2024. This is 2025. We have multiple tournaments going on. How is the US soccer fan going to interact with those tournaments, and how are they preparing for 2026? So, here in the United States, we have a very capitalistic notion of what success means for a given tournament. So, that's why I asked the question whether this tournament that's coming up, the FIFA Club World Cup, if it will be a fan success. So, I'm not talking about dollars and cents because unfortunately, what has happened with US soccer, especially, is that we are so hyper focused on how much money we're making. We're not asking the questions of, are the fans actually enjoying the product that they're paying for? Is the fan experience before, during, and after the game worth spending all that money to go see the United States men's and women's national team? All of these questions, right, about money forgets the human element, the fan element involved. So I had some questions here about that, for the Club World Cup. Will we see sold out stadiums? I thought that was one of the main reasons why FIFA wouldn't sell its tickets through Ticketmaster, because I would have thought FIFA would have wanted the image on TV of the stadiums being completely sold out. That might still happen, right? It looks like the sale of the Club World Cup tickets with Ticketmaster went off relatively well. Are there some games that are still rather expensive? Yes, there are. But more or less, it seemed to have gone rather well. So, will we see sold out stadiums for all of these games? Probably not. I mean, you can imagine, at least here in DC, unfortunately, Wydad versus Al Ain not being a sold out crowd here at Audi Field. But I think FIFA will take those hits at the smaller stadiums for the sellout games like Al Ali versus Inter Miami. Will that game at Hard Rock Stadium be sold out? It waits to be seen. Now, are fans going to react well to these games? So that kind of goes hand in hand with attendance, right? If the fans feel that these tickets are too expensive, they won't go. But also in general, is there going to be a lot of media coverage about this tournament? Because at least for Copa America, when I went to Charlotte, barely anyone outside of the stadium knew that this game was even happening. So are the casual soccer fans that might not go and spend their money to go to these games, are they going to go watch it at the bar? Are they going to go watch it at home? Are they going to host watch parties? Are they going to post it on social media? Are they going to care enough so that when we saw news, late last year in 2024, that FIFA was considering bringing back this club tournament, this Club World Cup, back to the United States in 2029, is the fan interest going to be there for Infantino and FIFA to say, you know what, yeah, let's bring it back to the States, or they're going to go ahead and ship it off to Saudi Arabia? Okay, so we're really going to see if the FIFA Club World Cup captures the imagination. I'm not talking about money, just the imagination and interest of the soccer fans here in the United States, so that maybe it continues to be a thing come 2029 and 2033 and 2037, so on and so forth. So is the Gold Cup going to matter? Remember that there was those rumors back in 2024 that the Gold Cup was going to have 24 teams, que pronto Colombia, Egypt, France. It was going to be like a mini World Cup. But then you started thinking about it. Why would they do that? Some of these teams might not even be done qualifying for the World Cup. Colombia's and Comebol's qualification rounds, for example, don't end until September. So how could Colombia say their desperation to qualify for the World Cup decide to then participate in this Gold Cup right when they need their players to not get injured and be ready for those last two matches in September? It probably won't happen, pero póngale ese escenario. So more and more, this idea of a mini World Cup coming to the United States in 2025 seemed more of a impracticality, to say the least. Then, of course, the Club World Cup happened, right? I think this was the battle between Infantino and CONCACAF. That Infantino wanted to make sure that the Club World Cup actually happened. Well, he needed to sacrifice the Gold Cup in order for the Club World Cup to happen. So, what we have now for 2025 para la Copa Oro is your standard CONCACAF tournament, 16 teams. It is interesting that they did decide to expand the Gold Cup's host venues up to Vancouver. So now Canada is getting some preparation for the World Cup, even though Toronto still doesn't have anything. Pero ojalá everything goes well in Toronto. So Vancouver has some games. But if you notice on the map overall, right, the Gold Cup matches will happen all west of the Mississippi River. You have Minneapolis, St. Louis being the two easternmost, probably the venues for the U.S. men's national team, as reported by some other folks on including CONCACAF Edgar. And so this tournament, now regionalized to basically to the west, are fans going to care about the Gold Cup? Because now you have the Club World Cup happening at the same time, not in the same cities except for Los Angeles, right? Los Angeles, the Rose Bowl will host the Club World Cup matches. And then for the Gold Cup, you're going to have Dignity Health Sports Park and SoFi Stadium host matches for that tournament. But again, is the Club World Cup going to overshadow the Gold Cup? Because now all of the attention goes to these clubs. Are fans, digamos, de Mexico going to want to watch both tournaments? Your mind would think, yeah, why wouldn't they want to watch both tournaments? But they'll probably want to watch them on TV and not, for example, go to a Club World Cup match and the Gold Cup. Or maybe they would, right? De pronto venden la casa, they kick out the whole family into the street. But that's where those financial questions come into play now, right? We didn't really talk about that in the Club World Cup question about finances and everything, because the sale of the tickets has already happened. Tickets are still on sale, of course. And fans seem to not have complained too much about the prices. But now let's add the Gold Cup on top of that. And now your wallet starts feeling the pain a bit of, oye, I'm going to go buy Club World Cup tickets to go to the Rose Bowl. And then I'm going to go buy tickets para ver a Mexico at SoFi Stadium. Como que, oye, it gets a bit more difficult. Which then, of course, leads to the third question, which we'll talk about in a minute, the World Cup tickets. So are we putting too many tournaments into the pot of the summers of soccer? It's kind of exciting to see it on TV. I think that's one thing. Pero, carajo, to start putting them now back to back to back, where you're going to go to one stadium in the morning, one stadium in the afternoon, one stadium in the evening, like, sheesh, that gets very difficult. So are fans going to care enough about the Gold Cup to go spend the money to go to these stadiums? Again, because we're not having a conflict of the cities, right? You would think, yes, they will go ahead and spend the money. But again, it's the third question. It's the next question I'm going to ask. What about the 2026 World Cup? Are people going to drop hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go watch, in effect, a pointless Gold Cup? And then what? Risk not getting tickets for the 2026 World Cup or go into debt, which is not what I want you to do. This is the $1 billion question. When are these tickets going on sale? I actually already made another YouTube video about this, so please go ahead and check it out. There's no need to go into the finer details as to when I think they will go on sale. But spoiler alert, I do think it's going to be in August, or at least starting in August. And I do predict that FIFA is going to use the same format that they have always used in their previous tournaments. Now, there is a bit of a caveat, though, because the success of the Club World Cup ticket sales through Ticketmaster does concern me, because now FIFA might think of using Ticketmaster to sell its World Cup 2026 tickets, which is not what we want, because we don't want the intense competition of the scalpers. We don't want the dynamic pricing. We don't want, the sharing of the codes, which only lets the scalpers get those tickets, so on, so forth. And then the international fans that wouldn't even be able to access Ticketmaster won't get tickets. It becomes a very U.S. tournament, and then that's boring. The whole point of a World Cup is that a global audience can come to the United States, enjoy the World Cup here, not only in the US, but in Mexico and Canada. Like, just be able to enjoy it overall. I still think FIFA is going to sell their own tickets. They have the IP, they have their own platform, they have all that set up ready to go. But I am concerned about that Ticketmaster success. It's kind of weird, right? I kind of wanted Ticketmaster to screw up the Club World Cup ticket sales. So in that way, FIFA says, you know what? No, forget this. We're going to sell it on our own. I do think the chances of FIFA using Ticketmaster does increase maybe to 30%. But I hopefully, at the end of the day, FIFA will sell its own tickets and we just won't have to worry about Ticketmaster, which then does mean there's an application process and then a second round and a third round. Those details will come later. But again, go ahead, check out my video of when I predict the World Cup tickets will go on sale and also how those tickets were sold in the Qatar World Cup, because that's going to help you understand why I keep saying go get your passport right now, because that might be the ID they want to verify that it's you. And do all these other extra steps to make sure that you do have easy access to purchase those tickets when the time comes. We haven't really talked about the travel of travel football fan, but I really do think it's a good time to really talk about this, okay? And as briefly as I can, of course. I do think that the travel industry will cash in. Okay. Copa America, they didn't really quite increase the prices, at least from my initial observations. Prices tended to be normal for the season. During July 4th weekend, of course, the prices go higher just because that's a national holiday. But I really do think that for the 2025 Club World Cup, you're going to see a bump in the prices up for flights, car rentals, hotels, also because of the demand from some of these foreign fans. Now, do I think that there's going to be a lot of foreign fans for the Club World Cup coming here? Not at the same level as for the World Cup. Now, the fifth question, we'll talk about why that might not be the case. And it all depends on who will be at the White House. But before we get to that question, I really do think that internally, at least within the United States, the travel industry will bump up its prices. They're not going to get caught sleeping by Copa America. I think there might have been a little bit of like, Copa America is not really going to really attract too many people. Then they saw all those stadiums fill up, and then they're going to be like, no, we're not going to miss out on the money. So there will be increased prices for everything travel related, which is why if you already have your tickets and you're going to be traveling to another city and you already know when, book your travel after this video. Book it. Because the longer you wait, those prices will increase, and you increase the chances that you might be out of luck to get those hotel rooms, to get those car rentals, to get those flights, to get the train rides up and down DC, Philly, Newark, so on and so forth. Okay, so you definitely want to book your travel ASAP. What about for the World Cup in 2026? Technically, you could book your travel about 330 days out from your desired due date. So that means that for the June, July 2026 World Cup, you could technically start booking it starting in August of 2025. But again, you probably don't have tickets in hand by that point. For most of us, we won't know, except for USA, Mexico, Canada, where our team's going to be playing. That's going to be at the World Cup draw in 2025, more than likely, is when that draw will happen. So you might have to wait a little bit. But if, say, you want to go to New York City, and you know when you want to be in New York City, regardless of whether you have a ticket or not, you can start booking that travel August of 2025. So now that you beat the crowds, right? It's all about beating the crowds of all of these fans within the United States and coming in to the United States, okay? Now, in using travel points and miles, during my experience of Copa America, okay, I was able to use my Alaska Airlines miles to save me a boatload of money, over $600 on my flight from DC to Charlotte, because that's how much that 1 hour flight was costing me, over $600, because I did have to book that last minute, admittedly. The hotel wasn't too bad. It was about, I think, $125, $135. So I did use a combination of my Hilton points and cash for that one. So that wasn't too bad either. I do predict that airline miles will be more difficult to use, as exemplified by the Super Bowl, right? If you look at the last couple of Super Bowls, the prices of the flights between the host city and the city of the two teams competing in the Super Bowl shoots up in price insanely. And usually airlines want to cash in on that rather than have a whole bunch of people use their miles to book the flight with those miles, which is a form of currency, but it's like a coupon. It's a massive saving compared to what they could get in cash. So I do predict, and again, this is a prediction, that airline miles will be a little bit more difficult to use in 2025 and definitely will be much more difficult to use in 2026 for travel around the United States, Canada, Mexico. However, there might still be some sweet spots available. This is for more of the advanced travel hackers out there. You might be able to find some deals with your miles. With hotel points, I think that's a different story. I don't see the major hotel chains completely blocking out your ability to use your points for hotels. Maybe at the 5-star hotels, right next to the stadium, your Ritz Carltons, your Waldorf Astorias, Intercontinentals, like those. Okay, we ain't letting you use your points to sit right next to Gianni now. Come on now, but for your mid-tier, for your budget hotels, yes, I do think you will be able to use your points there. It's going to be practically impossible to black out a radius of what, like 60 miles, 100 miles away from the whole city. I don't think that's going to work. I do think that you have to be a little bit smart with your travel planning. So, for example, if you want to go to games to Philadelphia, consider staying in DC, right? You make that 2-hour drive or that 2-hour Amtrak ride, you're there, and you might be saving money, okay? So this is why you really need to start your travel planning now in order to be ready for all of those contingencies. Finally, I am working with some hotel groups right now in specific areas for partnerships. So please visit my website, travelfootballfan.com. I'm going to be building a page where I am providing discounts to certain hotel groups based on whether they want to work with me, of course. That might help you save money, okay? I'm going to try to be strategic with the hotels that I select. Some might be budget friendly, some might be mid tier, and hopefully maybe one of them will be luxury. We'll have to see. Pero check out my website. No partnerships are confirmed yet, but I will announce it through my socials when those do start coming through. So in that way, I can provide y'all with discount codes. So that way you can save money on your travels for these tournaments. Whether you like it or not, soccer and politics have mixed. Will always mix and will continue to mix in the near future. Okay? So we do have to talk about Trump. All right. I know, and you probably know, I'm not his biggest fan, but we do have some questions that we need to consider here, especially for FIFA as they organize the 2025 soccer calendar and into 2026. Now, do we get the business Trump, which he's just gonna be like, yo, look, I know I said all those things about the immigrants, but yo, I'm here to make money. So let's make some money with these soccer tournaments. Do we get that Trump, or do we still keep the anti-immigrant Trump that's gonna be hell bent on severely restricting travel from foreigners coming into the United States? It's a key question to ask. Maybe not so much so for the Club World Cup, although, there will be fans affected by that. But for the World Cup in 2026, that will be having massive implications if, say, for example, Trump decides to re-implement a version of the Muslim ban. Oh, he's going to start preventing whole countries' fans from coming into the United States. So that is a very important question that we have to discuss, that we have to address here as soccer fans, because it could affect the quality of the crowds. It could affect the quality of the soccer because then these teams are not going to have their fans there, even though America's a melting pot. America is a nation of immigrants, and we have all these people already here probably. It's still going to affect some vibes at the least. I think we could all agree on that, right? So is this, whatever the White House and with Trump decide to do with their whole immigration thing, whether it was just a bunch of blah, 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 or it's really the policies that they want to implement, how is it going to affect FIFA and Infantino's ability to host, at least what FIFA wants to sell, right? All inclusive, peaceful. This is a sport for the world to enjoy. And then you're having, Trump and the White House saying, no, but we need to kick all of you out and we don't want you in. Like, that is a complicated situation. What is that relationship going to look like overall, right? Not just beyond the immigration thing, beyond, letting people in or out, or rather letting people in, kicking people out, so on and so forth. how is that overall relationship going to look between FIFA and Trump? It's no secret that FIFA likes, let's just say, the less bumps to hosting a tournament, the better, which is why they did enjoy their working relationships in Russia and in Qatar, which is why they were so like insistent on trying to get Saudi Arabia 2034. How is that relationship going to look like between Gianni and Donald? That is going to be very important as these tournaments begin to be implemented here, not only for 2025, but also for 2026. Bueno, mi gente, those are the 5 soccer questions that the United States will be answering this year, okay? Most of these are indeed soccer related with the tournaments themselves. And the other 2 that I did ask were about the travel industry, because that is going to be an important part of how much money people will be spending, and the political side, which is how much support the White House and this Trump presidency will give to FIFA, or how adversarial or how much fighting there's going to be between these 2 entities. Well, we'll see. Okay, this is January 5th of 2025. We just started this year. The second year of the American soccer Summers of Soccer is fast approaching us. The mega decade of sports in the United States is full on in swing, having already started last year with Copa America and the Women's Gold Cup. How are these tournaments going to play out, and how is our society here in the United States going to interact with these tournaments? We shall see. In the meantime, please make sure that you continue to follow my content on all socials and subscribe here to my YouTube channel. And make sure you click the bell button as well, so that way you're notified as to whenever I do upload a new video. My mission this year is to try to upload at least 1 video per week. I am working on some collaborations right now with some other content creators, maybe bringing some interviews that are more travel related and so on and so forth. And again, I do live in the DC area, so some of the content might get a little political too, but don't worry about that, fam. You know, la política siempre va a estar aquí, desafortunadamente. Anywho, this is Travel Football Fan. Again, I'm hoping fans save money and travel the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Thank you so much for your time. Continue to support my work. Visit my website, travelfootballfan.com, if you want to go ahead and sign up for one of my travel consultations to help you out organize your travels. And I'll see you on the next video.